Mr. Joseph, in your latest article for Wilson Center, you state that you believe that the United States and European Union lack the leverage to close the Kosovo question and that this problem affects other Balkan countries. Why is it that they lack leverage? You also say that redressing internal EU divisions on Kosovo is somehow the key. How can this be achieved?
We have been unable to close the Kosovo question, and that relates very much, of course, to Serbia, and Serbia relates very much not just to Kosovo, but to Montenegro, to Bosnia-Herzegovina, and to Croatia. And it relates to Serbia's own political development. This is crucial and very much overlooked. Its own democratic development, which has gone in the opposite direction. And it all comes back to the lack of leverage. And the lack of leverage that we have on Kosovo is the reason why the Kosovo question is still open.
You're also a critic of the West when it comes to its behavior towards Serbia. To be more precise, you say the region's most anti-democratic government and the strategic partner of the Russia and China, the regime in Serbia led by President Aleksandar Vučić, gets the most favorable treatment.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's even worse than that. What I said is absolutely true, and it's because of this lack of leverage. It's very simple. Because we have this division, that means Serbia has the leverage. Because Serbia has the leverage, we're in a weak position. We need Serbia. That's it, in quotes. We need Serbia, as I write in there, more than Serbia needs us. So we're in this position of, we use the word supplicating. It means almost like begging. And what do we do? Do we hold Serbia to account for its commitment to join the EU and the standards and the values of the EU? We do not. So while Aleksandar Vučić, in the very year that it began and opened its EU candidacy, has been eviscerating the democracy in Serbia. And what do we say? You can see what the public remarks are of Western officials.
In your article, you say that there is a need of drafting two concise principles, one formalized by the EU and the other by NATO. Can you present them to us more thoroughly?
We have to remember, what is this all about? This is all about enabling the US and the EU to stop giving Serbia a privileged treatment. Because that's what we're doing now. Because we don't have leverage on Serbia, we give Serbia privilege. Serbia can behave in anti-democratic ways, can be allied with Russia and China, and we say, oh, you are a leader. You are the political, economic leader. This has to stop. So it stops when we put Serbia on the same level with the other countries. Not a worse level, but we stop putting it on a better level. And so we have two principles. We have one in the EU and one for NATO, and those two principles say that. They say that. And they're drafted in a way that they can never be applied, for example, to Catalonia. It's drafted very carefully, so it identifies Serbia and Kosovo in the sense that they have formalized relationship with the EU. And Catalonia can never have that unless the government in Madrid would approve, and they would never approve. Basically, they say a similar thing. They say, you cannot commit political aggression against each other. And the NATO one is very specific and talks about altering borders, which is relating especially to this union of Kosovo and Albania, but also applies to Bosnia too, and those kinds of threats, and applies to Kosovo, with a threat to partition Kosovo. So it applies to all of the countries.
Throughout the text, you mention Vučić, but not Kosovo leaders. How do you comment the approach of Prime Minister of Kosovo, Albin Kurti, in the dialogue with Serbia? He said that this process should have principles and that both sides need to be equal.
It's not necessary for me. Why do I need to talk about Kosovo leaders? Almost no matter their position. Why? Because they don't have the leverage. They're not the issue. They're secondary. Kosovo needs the recognition. It needs the arrangement. It doesn't really matter that Kurti says, oh, this is not a priority, it doesn't matter. That's not the reality. That's not the reality. The reality is Kosovo needs this, and he knows that.